big cost per mile misconception. Check it out right after this. Let's talk about cost per mile. It's a disturbing fact is most people don't even know what it is. The true fact is nobody can tell you what it is, because all you can do is project what your cost per mile is based on last year's numbers. If somebody tells you that my cost per mile is $1.15 a mile, and not $1.16, not $1.14, it's $1.15 a mile, and that's what it is, they obviously don't know, because there's so many factors involved. You have your fixed cost and you have your variable cost, and to equate them into a mileage, they're both variable. Your variable cost go up the more miles you do. Your fixed cost go down the more miles you do. So, when I was projecting my cost per mile on this new truck I just purchased, the one thing I wanted to know was if these are based on the average is 40 cents a mile for fuel. That's if you average 7.5 miles per gallon. This is another thing you got to figure out. Your variable can be variable. Based on your fuel economy. I did a whole graph on that. The guys at my Porsche shop are laughing at me. Your tolls could be variable. I mean, there's all kinds of variables with this. But when I was going to purchase this truck, I wanted to know approximately what my cost per mile was, and I based it on 4 factors: 70,000 miles a year, 80,000 miles a year, 90,000 miles a year, and 100,000 miles a year. Now, obviously, if you go over 100, all things change. But the difference between 70,000 miles a year and 100,000 miles a year was about 25 cents a mile. That was based on some pretty, basic numbers. 15 cents a mile for maintenance. Fuel was 40. The truck payments. You could figure, like DEF costs, tolls, some variable, low board expenses, so forth. You can probably chalk that up to about 10 cents a mile. Now, hopefully, the first year, I won't have that 15 cents a mile maintenance cost. I'll just have basic oil changes and whatever. So, to tell you your true cost per mile to the penny, nobody can do that. It's impossible. You can't project next year. You get sick, you're off for 2 weeks. You just threw your whole equation out of the, it's gone. Now, why do I need to know that? So while you're booking these loads, now here's the next problem. When you're booking these loads and you see a load, and you say, okay, well, my cost per mile, not including your salary, this is, just the run the truck. The good guys will have their salary included in their cost per mile. They'll know, okay, I need to make $50,000 a year, and I average 100,000 miles a year. That's 50 cents a mile. I got to add on to my cost per mile. Okay, but I do it a little differently. I look at it as, this is what it cost me to run a truck, and from there on is profit, because that's the way you run a business. So you book a load. You say, all right, my cost is $1.30 a mile. and you book a load for $2 a mile, and you say, okay, I made 70 cents a mile profit on that load. Well, no, you didn't, because the load's paying $2 a mile from point A to point B. Now, you could be wherever you're at. You got to drive to go pick that load up. So obviously, what I'm getting at here is you got to minimize your deadhead, your empty miles. So when you have your projected cost per mile, you need to know because this is based on, your projected cost per mile is based on total miles. You need to know your profit per mile, or your revenue per mile, per total mile, not loaded mile. Now, that's the most important part of this equation. It used to be, you can go into Florida and deadhead out empty and get a good paying load. Now you can't. Now you need to take that $1.10, $1.20 mile freight per mile freight out of there. Otherwise, you're losing money. Even at $2.50 going in, you're losing money. So after you figure out, what you're going to project your cost per mile is, your rate per loaded mile, even though it's important, is as important as you need to know your rate per total miles. Now, some of these programs do it automatically. I use Trucking Office software. It's pretty good. It just helps me with doing some quick math that I don't have to do in my head, but keep track of invoices and so forth. I like it. It's a little pricey, but I like it. So that's my rant on know your cost per mile. Anybody that says, my cost per mile is 113, not 115, 113, they don't know what they're talking about. Because all you can do is project what your cost per mile is going to be based on last year's numbers. Now, I mean, you know what your fixed cost is. You can tell me that, I have X amount per week. That's okay. Your insurance, your truck payment, your trailer payment, that's X amount, period. However, as your more miles you run, the more profitable you should be, and that number should go down in your cost per mile. It's truly amazing that most people don't even have a clue what their cost per mile is. And the ones that are really struggling are doing these cheap loads, and they don't realize that they're losing money. Now, the good news is the industry will just weed them out, chew them up, spit them out, collect their money. The problem is they make it so easy for the next guy to come in, and he'll be in the same boat. They'll have no idea. I'm making $2.50 a mile, making all kinds of money. Well, you might be, if you positioned yourself properly. But anyways, let's get on to doing some trucking. That's my rant on cost per mile. Cost per mile, man. You can project it. You could tell me exactly what it was last year, but you can't tell me what it's going to be next month. You can get it close. You could be approximate. There's variables involved in the variables. So keep that in mind while you're trying to figure out what the hell's going on out here. You know, sometimes a great work ethic and it just isn't enough. You know, just out here pounding miles, you know, sometimes that's not enough. You need to know the hardcore facts. Because if you're doing freight for $1.65 a mile and your cost is $1.50 a mile and you're averaging 100,000 miles a year, you just worked all friggin' year for $15,000. You'd be better off working at McDonald's flipping burgers. At least you'd be home with your family. Now, I guess that's not a good statement because I love it out here. I don't care if I'm home or not. This is great for me. I know a lot of guys have the same mindset as me. You know, we just love it out here. And this is one of the best jobs in the world. Or it could be the worst job in the world. It could be your worst nightmare if you don't know your numbers. So, if you can't figure it out, you know, there's people that'll help you figure it out. I'll help you figure it out. It's not that difficult. Maybe I should do a video on that so you have the basics. It's pretty simple. It's simple friggin' math. Alright, enough of this rant. Let's get on to trucking, man. We got some deliveries to make. We got to go to a Walmart DC, so, you know, got some time to kill there. Let's get on. Get on. Alright, man, next time. Maybe I'll just post this one by itself. It's probably 15 minutes long. Yeah.